You don't feel irresponsible. You feel normal. You work hard. You pay your bills. You upgrade your phone every couple years. You tell yourself you'll start investing properly once things calm down. And technically, you're not doing anything wrong. That's the dangerous part. Because the most expensive financial mistakes rarely feel reckless. They feel reasonable, sensible, even mature. And one day, not today, not tomorrow, but one quiet Tuesday years from now, your future self is going to look back at this phase of your life and think, why did I waste so much time? That's the part no one talks about. It's not about losing money. It's about losing optionality, losing leverage, losing years you can't buy back, not even if you're making six figures. And if that stung a little, good, because this gets worse if you ignore it. Here's the lie most ambitious 20-somethings believe. As long as I'm earning more each year, I'm progressing. Sounds fair, yeah? You graduate, you get the job, you get the raise. Maybe you hop companies for a better package. Nice move. On paper, you're climbing. But here's the uncomfortable question. Are you building freedom, or just upgrading your lifestyle at the exact pace your income increases? Be honest. When your paycheck goes up, what changes first? Your investments? Or your rent? Your ownership? Or your consumption? No shame. Most people do the same thing. It's human. But human doesn't mean harmless. Because if your income rises, but your dependency on that income rises with it, you're not getting freer. You're just getting more expensive. And that's where the regret begins. Not dramatic regret. Not I ruined my life regret. The slow, private kind. The kind where at 35 you're earning more than you ever imagined and still can't take 6 months off without anxiety. The kind where your calendar is full, your LinkedIn looks elite, but your time still isn't yours. And the scary part? You can't see it happening in real time. That's what we're unpacking today. Because your future self won't be angry about the money you spent. They'll be disappointed about the time you traded without building leverage. And this is where most people get it wrong. 1. The I deserve this upgrade cycle. You work hard. Of course you do. Long hours, stress, commute, deadlines. So when you get that raise, you think, I deserve to live a little. Fair enough. You're not a monk. So you move to the nicer apartment. You lease the cleaner car. You start booking better holidays. Not reckless, just upgraded. Solid. And here's the hidden shift. Your baseline cost of existing quietly rises. Not dramatically, just enough. Now your lifestyle requires your current income. Pause for a second. If your job disappeared tomorrow, how long could you sustain your current life without panic? Not vibes. Actual calm. Most people don't ask that question because it's uncomfortable. And here's the deeper truth. Lifestyle inflation doesn't just cost money. It costs flexibility. Every upgrade tightens the golden handcuffs. At first it feels like progress. Later it feels like pressure. And once your identity adjusts to that new lifestyle, that's when it gets tricky. Because now downsizing feels like failure. Even if it's strategic, even if it's temporary, even if it would accelerate your long-term freedom. That's the psychological trap. And this leads directly into the second mistake. 2. Confusing high income with high leverage. Let's say you're earning well, maybe 80K, maybe on 20K, maybe more. Nice, respect. But here's the uncomfortable distinction. Income is what you earn. Leverage is what earns without you. And most smart, ambitious people optimize the first while neglecting the second. You negotiate your salary. You build skills. You become valuable. But if your income stops the moment you stop working, you haven't built leverage. You've built dependency, and dependency feels fine when you're young and energized. But fast forward 10 years, you're still sharp, still capable. But now you have more responsibilities. Maybe a partner, maybe family, maybe just higher standards. And suddenly you realize your life only functions at full speed. You can't coast. You can't breathe. You can't step away without consequences. This is where the regret trigger activates. Because you'll think, I had time. I had energy. I could have built systems earlier. Not hustle culture systems, calm ones. Ownership, equity, assets, automated investing, digital leverage. Anything that compounds quietly. Instead, you optimized comfort. And comfort compounds too, just not in your favor. Here's the discomfort moment. If your current plan requires you to work intensely for the next 30, 40 years, is that actually a plan? Or just momentum? Sit with that, because this is where most people default to autopilot. And autopilot is expensive. 3. The opportunity cost you can't see. You already know about compound interest. You've heard it since high school. Start early. Time in the market. Blah, blah. But here's what no one explains clearly. Compound growth isn't just mathematical. It's behavioral. When you delay investing, not because you can't, but because you're waiting for the right time, you're not just missing returns, you're delaying identity shift. The moment you become an investor instead of just an earner, that shift changes how you see money. Suddenly, you question unnecessary upgrades. You think in decades. You view cash as fuel for ownership, not just lifestyle. But if you postpone that shift for 5, 7, 10 years, you don't just lose gains, you lose compounding habits. And habits are everything. Imagine 2 versions of you. Version A starts small but consistent at 23. Version B waits until 32 when things are stable. Same intelligence, same ambition, different trajectory. By the time version B gets serious, version A isn't stressed. They're calm. They've seen markets rise and fall. They've built emotional tolerance. They understand risk because they've lived through it. Version B? They're starting from scratch with higher expenses and less margin for error. That gap isn't just financial, it's psychological. And here's the part your future self won't forgive. You knew better. You consume finance content. You understand the basics. You're not clueless. You just delayed execution. Not out of ignorance, out of comfort. And comfort now creates constraints later. This is where it quietly escalates. 4. Trading your 20s for a resume instead of ownership. Let's talk identity. In your 20s, you're building something. Skills, network, credibility. Good, necessary. But many people accidentally build a resume instead of a life. You stack experiences. You collect titles. You chase impressive roles. And there's nothing wrong with that. Until you realize your entire financial strategy is tied to being employable, not free. Pause. If your biggest asset is your ability to be hired, what happens when you're tired? Or bored? Or misaligned? Or just done? Here's the subtle trap. You get so good at playing the game that you forget to ask if it's the right game. And this is where regret becomes heavy. Because at 28, you have flexibility. At 38, with obligations and expectations? Less so. Not impossible. Just heavier. The earlier you build ownership, even small percentages, the more options you preserve. Options are everything. Time to pivot. Time to pause. Time to explore. Time to recover. Without options, high income feels like survival with better lighting. And if that sounds dramatic, give it a decade. This isn't about fear. It's about clarity. Because once you see it, you can't unsee it. And now we get to the shift. Here's the good news. You haven't ruined anything. If you're 18 to 30, you're not late. You're early. But early only matters if you move. Your future self doesn't need you to be perfect. They don't need you to predict markets. They don't need you to time crypto cycles. They don't need you to quit your job tomorrow and launch a startup. They need one thing: intentional leverage. Small, consistent, boring leverage. Automated investing that runs regardless of mood. Expenses that grow slower than income. Ownership, even if it's tiny at first. Skill building that increases optionality, not just salary. This isn't flashy. It's calm. It's Swiss-level steady. A bit Norwegian practical. Slightly German disciplined. Low drama. And over time, that calm discipline turns into freedom. Not overnight miracles. Compounded control. Here's the mindset shift. Stop asking, how much can I earn this year? Start asking, how much of this year's effort will still pay me in 10 years? That question changes behavior instantly. Suddenly, a raise becomes capital. A bonus becomes ownership. A side project becomes leverage. An expense becomes a trade-off against freedom. And no, this doesn't mean living like a minimalist monk. Enjoy your life. Travel, upgrade, celebrate. Just don't let your lifestyle grow faster than your autonomy. Because the worst regret isn't poverty. It's earning well and still feeling stuck. Your future self isn't asking you to grind harder. They're asking you to think longer, to zoom out, to act like time is your most valuable asset. Because it is. And if you start now, 5 years from today, you won't feel behind. You'll feel calm. You'll feel dangerous in the quiet way. The kind of person who doesn't panic during layoffs, who doesn't fear market dips, who doesn't feel trapped by their own success. That's the real flex, not income. Control. If this made you slightly uncomfortable, good. Discomfort is awareness waking up, but awareness without direction fades. So here's the next logical step. Watch the video on your screen about high income, zero freedom. Because earning more doesn't solve this problem. In fact, it can amplify it. And if you don't understand that dynamic early, your future self won't forgive that either. I'll see you there.